So, folks, we need to talk about this guy named Mike Johnson. You might have heard of him a time or two. He's a little bit of a rascal.
Jack, you're glowing positively radioactive like shrimp.
A radioactive shimp, if you will. Also, Nathan, thank you for the $5 dono. But Mike Johnson here, he's the Speaker of the House. He's one of the most powerful people in the United States. He is in charge of the House. He's the one who can call the House into session. Essentially all of the holdup in the House is that, he's not calling them into session. Now, that begs the question, why is he not calling them into session? Why is he not calling the House into session? Well, the very obvious reason is that there are now enough votes in the House to demand the release of the Epstein files. And so he is stalling and buying time to try and make sure that the Epstein files aren't released and that, he can essentially stall it out. And in so doing, he's also refusing to seat. Let's see. I want to make sure. Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna mispronounce her name, and I do apologize. Adelita Grijalva. I think I got that right. But basically, Arizona elected Adelita Grijalva to be their representative, and because Mike Johnson is not calling the House back into session, she hasn't been formally inducted yet. She is the vote that gets the Epstein files released. That is the dynamic that is playing out here. And instead, Mike Johnson is trying to be cute. He's trying to say, oh yeah, how do I respond to this? How do I respond to it? Here's just an insane clip.
There was a special election that was held for Arizona more than 3 weeks ago now. The Democratic Congresswoman-elect won that special election, Grijalva. She's waiting to be seated. And now Arizona's Attorney General is threatening to sue you for taxation without representation if you don't seat her. I realize Congress is not in session, but it's been more than 3 weeks, and all the representatives in the House are being paid right now. Why can't you seat her?
Not all the members of the House are being paid. I think all the Republicans.
Well, some of them have chosen not to take a paycheck. They are all under law allowed to receive a paycheck, but they are saying that this is a huge amount of politics. You're using this as leverage by not seating them. And Arizona is saying this is taxation without representation.
Yeah, I'm shocked that there's another Democrat politician from Arizona seeking publicity right now. Now the state AG's involved.
You haven't seated their full delegation.
She's going to sue me, I'm sure. No,
she's not going to sue you. The Attorney General of Arizona is going to sue you for their people not being able to be fully represented.
No, that's who I'm referring to. I know, and she wants publicity.
Every day that goes by, I swear to God, he keeps stammering more and more as he tries to come up with other plausible reasons to not actually do his job. It's genuinely insane.
Too, and it's all a farce. Let me tell you what's happening here. The Rep-elect Grijalva was elected after the House went out of session. So I have said this repeatedly. I'm delighted to administer the oath.
This is bullshit, right? After the House exited session, you can still call the House back into session during a government shutdown. You can swear someone in during a government shutdown. Other people have been sworn in during a government shutdown. Mike Johnson is just lying. This is just an utter and complete lie. And he's
to her as soon as we get back to legislative session. The people who are preventing us from doing that, ironically, are the two Democrat senators from Arizona. If Gallegos and Kelly would vote to reopen the government, we'll get this thing done quickly. I'm following right now the Pelosi precedent. When my dear friend and colleague from Louisiana, Julia Letlow, in very similar circumstances, was elected to fill in a special election to fill the seat of her late husband who passed, died because of COVID.
Just keep in mind, everything he's saying right here has nothing to do with his decision not to call the House back into session. Like, that has nothing to do with the government being shut down, because the very reason by law members of the House are paid during a government shutdown is so that they can go into session and do lawmaking, do the job that they were elected to do. And he's trying to say, oh, we couldn't possibly during a government shutdown. We couldn't then why are you paid during a government shutdown? Like, why do you think the law says you should be paid during a government shutdown? Like, setting aside that, like, you're saying Republicans aren't taking that money, but why do you think you guys are paid during a government shutdown? Because, like, you guys can go in and do your job. This is all bullshit. It's all slimy bullshit.
Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to administer the oath. Rep. Grijalva, won an election to take her father's seat in Congress. It's an amazing thing, and
there's not a session of government if government is closed. Tanya, that's just not true. That's just not true. During a government shutdown, how do you think they do the lawmaking to reopen the government? It's because the Senate and the House can still meet in order to do their jobs. The entire premise of the government shutdown is that the government needs to remain shut down until Congress functions. And thus, they need to be able to do their jobs even during a government shutdown. The government shutdown does not prevent them from doing their jobs.
Congratulate her for that. And I'm looking forward to administering the oath. But we have to get back to work. The lights have been turned out here. Chuck Schumer and the
the lights have been turned out here. Bullshit. We could see the lights on right behind you, sir. We know that that's not true. They are turning out the lights on you in the congressional hall. Come on now.
Democrats have shut down the government, and the first order of business is to make sure that American people, federal employees, law enforcement agents, border patrol agents, TSA, air traffic control get their paychecks so we can keep the government functioning, and then we'll get to the ceremonial duty of administering the oath. In the meantime, she can be working for her constituents. She has hired staff. I've noticed they keep doing stunt videos outside of her office, knocking on the door and pretending it's closed. It shouldn't be. She should be in there taking calls from her constituents.
Just out of curiosity, what good does it do to take calls from your constituents if you're not sworn in as a lawmaker and the lawmaking isn't even being called into session? What good does that do, sir? You field the calls from constituents so that you can then represent them in session. Oh, she can still do her job, though. No, she can't. No, she can't. Because it's ceremonial. It's literally not ceremonial. It's not. If it was so ceremonial that it didn't matter if she was sworn into session or not, then he would call the House into session, wouldn't he? If it was so inconsequential, he would call it into session because it wouldn't matter one way or the other. But he doesn't call it into session, and he lies about it repeatedly because he doesn't want the Epstein files released. The swearing in is winning the election is winning. Winning the election is winning, but the swearing in is what grants the powers within the body she was elected to. Now, with that being said, I just have to share this part right here, okay? Because this got under my skin. Here's another Mike Johnson interview from earlier today.
Clear. Let me predict what Senator Kelly is going to say on the show. He's going to give you a long, impassioned speech about health care and how the subsidies are so important.
Who would release the files if the government is closed? Literally, the people who release those files are still being paid by the government. During a government shutdown, some people are still paid to do jobs.
Important to make sure that people don't...
For example, Mike Johnson still gets paid during a government shutdown. Certain people in the government continue to get paid or are expected to do work without getting paid during a government shutdown.
And all of this. Let me tell you something. This is not a healthcare fight. This is a very simple funding fight. It always was. They have created a red herring. The subsidies don't expire until the end of the year. We were always planning to have the thoughtful debate and deliberation over that in the month of October and November before the subsidies expired. They know that. They grab.
Okay, then why? I'm just that's just so interesting. You were always planning to have this conversation. Okay, well, it's happening now. And the conversation is about whether or not people's, healthcare premiums double or triple at the end of this year, right? So, like, if you were always planning to have this conversation, why aren't you having it right now? Why, instead of, like, coming up with bullshit excuse after bullshit excuse after bullshit excuse, are you not instead just being like, oh yes, Democrats, that is a good point. We should extend the subsidies. We should, in fact, go back on our $1 trillion cut of Medicaid. You're so right. Thank you for giving us this chance for a thoughtful debate. And then you extend the subsidies, you reverse the cuts to Medicaid, and then you go on your merry way and the government stays open. But Republicans are so committed to cutting over $1 trillion from Medicaid, and so committed to tens of thousands of Americans dying every year because their health insurance becomes completely and utterly unaffordable, that they don't care. This is all malarkey. This is all bullshit.
Have that issue from the end of the year and pulled it back into September to try to pretend like that was the issue. It never. They
pulled it back. We wanted to have this conversation in October, and they pulled it into September. And, that's really their fault. They wanted the conversation sooner than we wanted the conversation. And that's why, we are derelict in our duty, and the entirety of the American government is shut down. That's just how it goes. You want to talk about something a little bit earlier than someone else. And, we want to have this conversation. Oh, we love talking about healthcare. That's why we as Republicans, we haven't come up with a single alternative to Obamacare. We haven't figured out a single one in the last decade. And what if we just didn't have an alternative and cut the healthcare altogether? What if we did that? What if we just let people die? How about that? As a matter of U.S. policy, what if we just let tens of thousands of U.S. citizens die? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about how that might juice the economy? You didn't even think about the economy's feelings, did you?
It was very clear. Let me predict.
Republicans do want you dead. I mean, that's essentially what Mike Johnson is arguing here. He's saying, oh, this fight isn't about healthcare, and it literally is. It literally is. It isn't because, Democrats were so rude in wanting to have a conversation at the end of September instead of the end of October. Like, that is not the substance of the issue. Like, Republicans want people to die in order to give money that could otherwise be used to keep them alive to their richest donors. Like, that's really what it is at the end of the day. I'm actually genuinely surprised that the Democrats have held out this long. It's almost like they're getting the point. But that's wishful thinking. No, I don't think it is. I think that, like, the last time Chuck Schumer capitulated for nothing, right? He capitulated for nothing. And that was so deeply unpopular, even among, like, elected Democrats, that Nancy Pelosi made fun of Chuck Schumer. Like, Nancy Pelosi made fun of Chuck Schumer capitulating in exchange for nothing. Like, that's a pretty big failure right there. And I think that what is happening right now is that Chuck realizes that he needs to get something, especially with an election coming up, because I don't think he's feeling as safe as he once did. Are Democrats installing a vat-grown spine in Chuck? I mean, I don't even think it's like a vat-grown spine is in Chuck. I think that he's just realizing, like, well, it seems like even the Baileys are participating in the No Kings protests. And also, it seems like all of my colleagues also want me to do something. And, well, these Republicans aren't willing to play ball. So I guess I'll have to get a little bit aroused as a treat.
Letting millions of people die would hurt them too, but the lead poisoning in their brains prevents them from thinking that far ahead.
It's true. That is true, Nathan.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
And I have two additional clips. One is an interview from Morning Joe with Adelita Grijalva, and it's good. It's good stuff. Because I think she actually understands the dynamics at play here.
Issues where they'd had a special situation, the family was in town, but we're not going to call your family in town for this. So what do you think is behind this?
The excuses are very, depending on the day, they just keep changing. So one time it was that the race wasn't certified, and then where it's pro forma. And so then it continued to highlight the hypocrisy of your rules keep changing. And so there was a whole freshman class sworn in when the government was shut down. So this idea that Congress is not in session is this speaker making that decision, this speaker changing all of the previously scheduled voting sessions. Mm-hmm.
So, Congresswoman-elect, what do you suspect then? If there's no good reason, what is the incentive for Speaker Johnson not to have you sworn in?
Well, the timing is the fact that I am the 218th signer to the discharge petition for the Epstein files. That is the only thing that I can point to that differentiates me from the other three people that were just sworn in recently from their specials. And when you talk about those issues and the fact that there is a lack of transparency from this administration, that I think is the only thing that we can all point to that makes me different from any of the others.
And you will be there on the Hill sooner or later, so you will continue to be that 218th vote. So that day is coming. It seems like they're just delaying it. Can I ask you
issues where?
And that is really it. It's just let's delay and delay and delay. We don't want the Epstein files to become a story again for as long as possible, and it's just bullshit. It's just utter bullshit that they are doing this to her. And Tanya, the president is elected in November and sworn in on January in January by law. That has to happen by law. And also, just throwing this out there, we're talking about special elections that are not held to the same timing standards as the president's election. It's not, oh, well, she was elected at a special session, so she gets sworn in 4 months later. No, or even 3 months later, 2 months later. That's not how this is supposed to work. In a special election, they're supposed to be sworn in as soon as possible. The whole point of a special election is to reduce the amount of time that a location in the United States is without representation, because we have a representative form of government. Our government functions based on that representation. Or we are asking for the files and we don't care what the House votes on, but the House has the ability to compel the release of those files. We've been asking for the Epstein files the entire time, but the House voting on it necessitates the files be released publicly. That's why it's important. That's why it is that's why it's vitally important that the House be able to vote on this. So that being said, I think we have here maybe just the best 23 seconds you're going to see of one of the I've had it podcast hosts, Jennifer Welch on CNN, just absolutely killing it.
Under this, every Republican and Democrat should be in D.C. right now working. Most of all, Moses Mike Johnson, who is this big Christian. If he's a big Christian, he should be teeing up, fighting for health care, fighting for the marginalized, fighting for the poor. But instead, he weaponizes his faith to lure voters in and then dicks them over every chance he can get.
And that's what people are so sick of. Can we say a few things about
under this?
It's true. I think one of the things we need to do, and this might seem not sufficient for the current times we live in, but I think this line of attack, especially among Midwest types, plays really well, which is that we need to start pointing out that these people are bullshit Christians, and there's a big difference between Christians who believe, the teachings of Christ and want to act out those teachings, and bullshit Christians. There's a big difference between those two, because Mike Johnson is a bullshit Christian. Dude is actively getting up and saying with his whole chest that he wants to cut $1 trillion. $1 trillion with the T. Trillion. from healthcare that helps the poorest and most disadvantaged people in society. He wants tens of thousands of people to die in this country every year so that he can give money to the richest people in society. This is bullshit Christianity. This is all about like how it appears. Like, yeah, he'll go to church because people are watching. Yeah, he won't watch porn because, you know, his son is watching, which is deeply weird. These people are bullshit artists, and it extends to their religious beliefs. This is like when people were like, oh, look at Donald Trump, he's a Christian. And like he was talking about, you know, 2 Corinthians. I love 2 Corinthians. This is my favorite book of the Bible, 2 Corinthians. Like, these are bullshit Christians. They adopt the label, they adopt the aesthetics, they perform, you know, in their communities, but they do not actually believe in Christianity. What they believe in is some other thing. Like, I'm sure they believe in something, but it sure as hell isn't Christianity. Corinth is Sardinia's bitch. I'm Uncle Gumball. That got me. That got me. 2 Corinthians walk into a temple. So, like, all I'm saying is, I think it's a great line of attack because these people, like, it's like when folks like cloak themselves in the American flag to say the most anti-American things imaginable. Or when they do the same thing with Christianity. They cloak themselves in Christ while doing the devil's work. And that's essentially what, you know, people like Mike Johnson do. And what a whole lot of other Republicans do as well. And I'm sure we'll talk about them as we continue this stream tonight. But with that being said, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard.